much pressure on Tyler Perry. You know what I mean? He ain't put nobody on. The people that been in his productions, they not famous. All of them could walk through the mall without security.
Why all? Hollywood just blinked hard. And this time it wasn't gossip, a post, or a screenshot sliding into the timeline. It was repetition. And once it clicks, there's no turning back. Because what if everything you believed about influence in Hollywood was upside down? What if the largest stages don't lift people up but slowly drain them dry? What if celebrity isn't freedom, but a carefully managed cage? Tonight, a name is circulating again. Not screamed, not shielded, murmured. Teyana Taylor. And no, this isn't the fairy tale cut the press packages. This isn't about skill, destiny, or grinding harder than the rest. This is about calculation, about positioning, about who gets covered and who gets consumed. According to what Katt Williams has allegedly been signaling, Hollywood isn't powered by affection. It's fueled by pressure. Connections aren't intimate. Separations aren't random. And silence is the priciest asset there is. Sit with that. Why do so many people move through elite systems and exit without real control? Why do the faces rotate while the engine never stalls? Why do the obedient remain visible while the challengers fade away? This isn't about accusing anyone directly. It's about tracking advantage, tracking quiet, tracking who keeps climbing while others freeze in place. Beneath the premieres and applause, there's a harsher truth where desire masquerades as love, access feels like salvation, and private emotions quietly reroute careers. Katt Williams isn't dropping hints carelessly. He's outlining a structure that prizes obedience and disciplines defiance. A structure where timing dictates fate, perception equals value, and individuals are disposable. So before brushing this off as chatter, before calling it random, ask the uneasy question. If Hollywood truly rewards talent, why does it keep manufacturing control? And if this is only theory, why does the room tense up when it's spoken aloud? Stay close, because once this narrative starts moving, it doesn't stop at celebrity.it lands at dominance. Hollywood is rattled again. Not because of a scandal erupting overnight, not because of hidden clips or legal paperwork, but because a pattern is finally being spoken. This time, the name drifting through the business isn't yelled. It's handled gently, almost cautiously. Teyana Taylor. And no, this isn't the version you've been fed before. This isn't the polished storyline. This isn't the studio-approved arc where everything equals healing, evolution, and forward motion. This is the version discussed only when the lights go down. According to what Katt Williams has allegedly been gesturing toward, Hollywood doesn't operate on love, loyalty, or even pure talent. It operates on timing, on alignment, on knowing when to disappear and when to shift lanes. And that lens changes everything. Because when Teyana Taylor's marriage to Amon Shumpert fell apart, the audience saw pain. But insiders say Hollywood saw movement. Allegedly, this wasn't merely a personal collapse. It was a strategic redirection. Amon Shumpert, by most accounts, leaned toward consistency, a family-first brand, a quieter path where legacy outweighed acceleration. Teyana, though, according to whispers that wouldn't fade, was aiming broader, international scale, Hollywood access, doors beyond music. Katt Williams' alleged framing isn't about fault, it's about divergence. When two visions point opposite directions, love doesn't always outlast the plan. The split happened. Fans watched Amon fracture publicly while Teyana didn't fold. She advanced. That's when the industry started watching more closely, because what came next didn't feel accidental. Enter Aaron Pierre. New presence, British cadence, weighty roles, awards-coded aura. Quietly, insiders marked him as next in line. According to industry murmurs, the bond between Teyana and Aaron wasn't labeled romance behind closed doors. It was labeled placement, not passion, strategic, not emotional.
Because P. Diddy be wanting the body, and you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no.
Katt Williams has allegedly suggested that in Hollywood, rebounds don't always mend wounds. Sometimes they construct staircases. But that phase didn't linger. And when it closed, the shift didn't pause. It intensified. That's when the chatter went international. Leonardo DiCaprio. No receipts. No snapshots spelling it out. Only rhythms. Fashion Week intersections. Closed-door industry rooms. High-tier access that never happens by coincidence. According to Katt Williams' energy, not his language, the message was clear. When you've conquered one arena, you don't sit still. You switch tables again. Nothing confirmed, only lifted brows and an industry that abruptly stopped looking away. Then arrived the pushback, the movie, the critique, claims that Black women were being commodified, that imagery was exploitative, that narrative angles were being filtered through a male lens. Viewers waited. They anticipated defiance, a boundary, a declaration. Instead, allegedly, Teyana stood by the project. She didn't dispute the framing. She didn't resist in public. She prioritized awards, buzz, and forward motion. And that's when Katt Williams' alleged caution began resonating for some. In Hollywood, integrity doesn't always cash out, advantages do. And quiet often carries rewards. That's when a much heavier presence entered the frame. Tyler Perry. Not painted as a villain, not crowned a hero, but as influence, a structure, a stage, a machine. By this point in the sequence, Tiana was reportedly drained, emotionally worn down, freshly bruised from public loss and wrapped in empathy. According to one telling, that's when the Tyler Perry apparatus swung open. And outwardly, the storyline appeared immaculate.
Showing me everything that she's been able to do is really phenomenal. This woman, you know, when I called her up to do the movie, she was like, "Are you? Yeah, I think I did." But she killed it. You'll see what I mean. You will see.
On the surface, it was framed as guidance, as admiration, as an open door. And that's precisely how influence likes to disguise itself. But critics of the structure argue that admiration is often the gentlest form of restraint. Because when visibility is offered at your weakest point, it forges a tie, one never signed, yet intensely binding. According to Katt Williams' alleged viewpoint, Tyler Perry isn't simply a director. He's a framework. And frameworks operate by codes. Move with the machine, the thinking goes, and the machine carries you ahead. In this version of the narrative, Tiana didn't enter the framework unaware, and Tyler Perry didn't unlock doors without cost. This wasn't exploitation in a sensational sense. It was reciprocal leverage, exposure traded for relevance, security traded for quiet. No saviors, no monsters, just a structure behaving as structures do. But then the atmosphere shifted, because once this alignment became visible, another presence resurfaced. One Hollywood has trained itself to dread, disregard, and discreetly track. Jaguar, right? And the moment her voice slipped back into the discourse, the pressure spiked.
In the Black Hollywood, and he did it by using stupid, ignorant, so-called Christian to fund all of his very homosexual behavior. He ain't rich.
These are her allegations, not proven facts, not confirmed claims, but they landed hard. And they landed hard because Jaguar Wright has built a reputation for saying
these are her accusations, not established truths, not verified evidence, but they hit with force. And they hit because Jaguar Wright has earned a reputation for voicing what others bury and for unsettling rooms while doing it. Her statements rewired the discussion. Suddenly, Tyler Perry wasn't only influence. He became friction. And Hollywood doesn't unravel over rumors. It tightens up over patterns that refuse to stay hidden. At this stage, the narrative stopped centering on one woman's professional decisions. It widened into a system, one that repeatedly funnels Black women into familiar roles. Fractured, over-sexualized, or quietly resilient. When they cooperate, the system lifts them, but it never releases the leverage. Katt Williams isn't labeling Tiana Taylor a villain. He's saying Hollywood doesn't prize purity. It prizes adaptation. And the real loss isn't learning the rules. It's that the rules rarely allow an exit. Today, Tiana stands illuminated, celebrated, insulated. But history shows what happens when quiet runs out. And that leaves a single question suspended, uneasy, unanswered, and impossible to dismiss. Is Tiana Taylor playing the game? Or is the game slowly closing in on her? Hollywood doesn't tense up when whispers float. It tenses when patterns begin aligning, because by the time the story reached its second act, something had already shifted behind closed doors. Phones rang differently. Invitations came with conditions. Conversations suddenly demanded loyalty before they demanded honesty. Because Ansia's structure senses it's under observation, it doesn't justify itself. It adjusts. At this phase, the storyline around Tiana Taylor became unusually managed. Not louder, not reactive, managed. Appearances were pristine. Messaging stayed tight. No emotional spillovers, no chaotic replies. And in Hollywood, composure is never random. According to industry watchers, this is the moment where careers don't collapse, they're curated. Where fallout isn't rejected, it's rerouted. Where uneasy questions are smothered beneath selective wins. What separates this moment isn't what was spoken, it's what stayed unsaid. No direct pushback, no public clashes, no explanations, just motion. Work rolled forward, access remained intact, exposure expanded, and that's where critics of the structure lifted their brows. Because in Hollywood, forward momentum after scrutiny isn't accidental. It happens when someone above decides the storyline still holds worth. This is the piece most people miss. Power doesn't erase talent, it integrates it. And once integrated, the conditions shift. The quiet around Tiana wasn't absence. It was containment. A signal that in certain rooms, survival requires control. Speak less, display more. Never disrupt the mechanism elevating you. According to the alleged framework Katt Williams has hinted at, this is where the true examination starts. Not when things collapse, but when they begin to function again. Because restoration within a system always comes with conditions, and those conditions are rarely documented. At this point, the conversation surrounding Tyler Perry shifted too. Not publicly, subtly. Public admiration remained. Professional ties stayed firm. But the murmurs changed pitch. Not, is he influential? That was never in doubt. The question became, what does that influence demand in return? Insiders say Hollywood recognizes two forms of power. One that lifts and one that confines. Once you profit from the system profits from your quiet. That's the silent contract. And when someone violates that contract, they're not always attacked. Sometimes they're simply forgotten. This is where the narrative stops focusing on individuals and starts exposing structure, because the same patterns repeat not with the same.